Tonight, I'm going to kick us off by sharing a true story about a doll lady and a butterfly. A long time ago, my wife Laura's grandfather built a cabin next to a river up near Taos. The cabin is still in the family, and we visit a few times a year. On one visit when my daughter Zoe was 4, she and I hiked up our pant legs and waded across the river to explore the other side. We managed a barefoot expedition in the forest without incident. When we were ready to head home, I stepped into the river and turned around to offer Zoe my hand. I noticed that she seemed distracted. She was looking at something in the woods. While we were navigating our way back across the slippery stones beneath the cool water of the river, Zoe asked me a question. She said, "Daddy, did you see that doll?" "Doll? What doll?" "The doll lady in the trees." "Doll lady in the trees?" "No, I did not see her." "Was she like a Barbie doll?" "No, she was bigger." "Oh, how much bigger?" "She was bigger than me. About as big as Mommy." "A mommy-sized doll?" I considered the possibilities. Could it be a mannequin? Could it be a neighbor sunning by the river? Could it just be Zoe's imagination? Or could it be something much more sinister? I looked around, yet I could not see the doll. But I could see that Zoe's demeanor was shifting. I asked her if she could point to where she saw the doll, and she did not want to. She did not even want to look in its general direction. As we made our way back to the cabin, Zoe's darkening mood began to stoke more disturbing possible explanations for the doll in my mind. What if there was a drunk or sick woman passed out by the river? What if it was something much worse? I asked Zoe if she could describe her in more detail. Could she tell me what the doll looked like? Zoe said she was sitting by a tree. She had long black hair covering her face. She was holding very still. By the time we got back to the cabin, Zoe was crying. I did my best to explain to Laura that Zoe was upset about a mysterious mommy-sized doll lady that she saw in the forest. What I did not say was that by now my mind was in full-on worst-case scenario mode. Did Zoe see an actual woman in the forest? How did the woman get there? Did she drown? Was she attacked by a bear? Was she wandering lost in the woods for days only to collapse mere feet from civilization? How long has she been there? Suddenly, other little details from earlier that day started to make sense. Perhaps the dead mouse we found in the garage was a dark omen. There was an uptick in the amount of dead flies we had to clean from the windowsills. Did they come from what Zoe saw? It became apparent that I had to get to the bottom of this mystery. If there was someone nearby that needed help, we should probably get that sorted. So I bravely waded back into the river to retrace our steps. This time the water was a little colder, and the slippery rocks were just a little more slick beneath my feet. Were they slippery because of what Zoe had seen? I reached the spot where Zoe stood when she was distracted earlier. And I looked in the direction that she was looking, and my stomach dropped. There was the doll lady, slumped under a fallen tree in a grotesquely unnatural way, like a discarded marionette. She was a sinister, supernatural being, and I prepared to face off against her in case she was about to leap out at me from her hole beneath the tree. But then I realized that she was the tree, just roots playing tricks on us. Back at the cabin, despite my cheerful report that the doll lady was nothing more than the exposed roots of a fallen tree, Zoe was still spooked. We let it rest, but I knew that one day we were going to have to face our fears. 2 years later, emboldened by a saw and some gardening tools, Zoe and I once again faced the doll lady. She was still there, lurking under the tree. And as we approached, she morphed into a cluster of winding roots. Still, to be safe, we cut some of the roots away to make sure the doll lady could never return. It's been 2 years since that day. I recently asked Zoe how she felt about it. She said she was glad that we did it because we were brave. And that's when I realized that the benefit of facing the doll lady was that it became part of our story. The story about how we were scared and then we were brave. The 5-year epic saga of the doll lady had officially become a family myth. A few weeks ago, I was thinking about my new family myth while I was in my car next to a truck at a stoplight. Just then, a large butterfly fluttered past my windshield and gingerly landed on the truck's gas cap. I was struck by the contradiction between the delicate beauty of the butterfly against the brutal utility of the gas tank. It was as if life itself was perched upon its own demise. What was the butterfly trying to tell me? Was it saying it has no hard feelings towards that which destroys it? Was it showing me how to make peace with entropy? Was it trying to say that me and the butterfly and the gas tank are all connected and part of a larger pattern that has been unfolding since the dawn of time? And suddenly, in that moment, a new myth was formed about the time a butterfly helped me contemplate my place in the universe. But wait a minute. Even though both myths were created through the same process of me essentially trying to make sense of things, the doll lady myth took years to create, and the butterfly myth took only a moment. This got me thinking about the potential elasticity of myths. How far can they stretch? Never-ending myths as long as time? How small can they be? Barely there myths hiding in the space between things? Is everything a myth? Is it myths all the way down? Are we made by the myths we make? Would anything exist at all if it weren't for the stories we tell? Are myths both actual reality and an interface between us and reality? But let's not go questioning the fabric of reality just yet, because we are about to embark on a very special journey to explore the many meanings of myths. Surely we will be left with stories to tell.